very warm welcome to today's edition of Money Moves. I am Melissa Enoch here at the FMDQ studios in Lagos.
And I am Grace Agbarago. It's Tuesday, the 30th of September. We thank you for joining us at this time on the show.
All right, let's now begin with your news now in Ethiopia, where Abyssinia Bank has registered with the Ethiopian Capital Market Authority, positioning itself to enter investment banking as the country's financial sector opens up. Board Chairman Mekonnen Maniezewol told shareholders at the bank's annual meeting that the move marks a strategic step to expand into securities trading and advisory services in line with Ethiopia's capital markets reforms. In earnings news, Marsa Marak, Morocco's leading port operator, has reported strong first half 2025 results, with goods handled rising 8% to 33.6 million tons. The group posted a 14.5% increase in consolidated revenue to 2.842 billion dirhams, while EBITDA jumped 17% to 1.561 billion dirhams, despite a 9.5% rise in operating expenses. Marsa Marak said the performance was supported by growth across all segments and cost discipline as it advances its 2030 strategic plan. The Secretary General of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, Haitham Al-Ghais, says that the group will further consider the global oil market conditions under its Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee, or JMMC, which meets on Wednesday. In an exclusive interview with the Frontier Africa Report's executive editor, Bossing Omofaye, today in South Africa, the OPEC chief also reviews Nigeria's and Africa's output under the current OPEC return of more than 2 million barrels into the global market. Let's take a listen.
Well, the JMMC is an advisory monitoring committee that is a sub-organ of the whole OPEC ministerial meeting. The JMMC does not make any decisions on production adjustments. It's a body that monitors the market conditions and monitors the compliance with the agreements that are in place. So the JMMC meets tomorrow, and as usual, the ministers will look into all the data, the presentations that we at the OPEC Secretariat will present to the ministers, and they will take note of these matters and see. For us in the OPEC Secretariat, you asked earlier on about how we see the market. We see the global economy robust and quite resilient, growing this year at 3.1% global GDP. We see oil demand year on year rising by 1.3 million barrels a day, and that's quite significantly a good levels of growth and healthy levels of growth, driven mainly by developing countries in non-OECD region. Most of that growth is in the non-OECD, India, China, Asia, Africa, Middle East. We see still good levels of demand for jet fuel, aviation fuel, because of strong summer traveling still ongoing. Actually, in many parts of the world, jet fuel demand is now reaching pre-pandemic levels, which is a very strong growth. Gasoline demand, we still see inventories declining on a weekly basis in the. Well, the JMMC is an advisor.
The 2025 African Energy Summit formally begins today in Cape Town, South Africa. Frontier Africa Report's executive editor, Bossing Omofaye, joins us now with updates on the day so far. Hello there, Bossing.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Good evening.
Good to see you. So far, what are the key takeaways from the formal opening of the summit today?
I think it was a very resounding message to the world that Africa will not stop drilling oil and gas. And again, the continent is getting support from many of the speakers on why Africa's energy independence, Africa's energy sovereignty is very important at this time, and why the continent will not pull back. That was part of the opening message of the founder and initiator of the African Energy Week, the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber, NG Ayub, and other speakers as well, energy ministers from Gabon, from Congo Brazzaville, and others also spoke in the same vein, the need for Africa to pursue its own energy independence. And of course, we've got a recorded message to the event from Ted Cruz, who is a U.S. senator who spoke very strongly about U.S. and Africa relationship. And of course, we later heard from Joshua Vols, who is from the U.S. Department of Energy, speaking about the core relationship between Africa and the United States. He said, and I'm quoting Joshua Vols, that no country has the right to dictate to another country or any continent how to pursue their energy sustainability. Every country needs to pursue the path to its own energy sustainability and independence. And he says the United States stands very strongly with Africa as far as fossil fuel or hydrocarbon exploration and investment is concerned. So we've got very two strong messages today from the United States, from Ted Cruz, the senator, and from Joshua Voss from the U.S. Department of Energy on behalf of the United States for Africa. And that's a very good way to kick off this week-long event here in Cape Town. Melissa.
All right, it seems like the summit is off to a great start. So tell me more about the panel session on OPEC Africa Roundtable and, of course, your exclusive interview chat with the OPEC Secretary General.
Oh, yes, thank you so much. We took that earlier. Again, the OPEC Secretary General and members of the panel, which include Nigeria's Minister for Petroleum Resources, Heineken, His Excellency Heineken Lokobiri, the Energy Minister for Congo-Brazzaville, for Gabon, and others who spoke. It was what comes to the table, Africa as a major or as a key producer within OPEC. At least about 8 or so African oil producing states are members of OPEC, which is currently less than 10% of the entire OPEC portfolio. So they spoke about new investments across Africa. For example, Congo-Brazzaville says they're ramping up on their energy production or oil and gas production to 500,000 barrels per day by in the next 5 years. That was what the minister said on that panel. They also have NG Ayub of Africa Energy Chamber on that global oil market right now, and what more needs to be done to support Africa's producer. Members of that panel spoke also on the global energy demand. Of course, OPEC does not determine oil prices, according to Al Ghais, the Secretary General, in that interview with me at the end of the panel. But broadly speaking, it's about the support that Africa will get in terms of investment, in terms of technical expertise, in terms of know-how, and how the continent can deliver a whole lot more now that the sentiment is around the world to produce more oil, whether it's from Norway to Venezuela and elsewhere on the planet. This is Africa's time to leverage its fossil fuel, oil and gas for its own energy transition and energy independence. Back to you, Melissa.
All right, thank you very much, Boasing, for those updates all the way from Cape Town. Let's now move to Kenya, where new data from 28,000 loans under the MSME Partial Credit Guarantee Scheme are shedding light on how risk is priced for small businesses. The findings come as Kenyan banks meet to discuss credit market rates with access to affordable finance for MSMEs at the heart of the conversation. Let's take a listen.
Globally, the evidence seems to be mixed. On one hand, there seems to be consensus that these partial credit guarantee schemes can reduce risk and can also expand lending. However, what is not clear is what's the impact in terms of pricing. Does the credit, the expectation is that the credit guarantee schemes should be able to lower interest rates to this, so that these SMEs can borrow at a lower rate than if the schemes did not exist. How does this guarantee scheme perform across sectors? That also is not conclusive. But also, there is an observation that if these credit schemes are not well designed, then they can fail. So, in the context of Kenya, we wish to understand whether high impact yet underserved sectors are benefiting from these credit guarantee schemes. Are borrowing costs meaningfully reduced? How do guarantees interact with collateral? Those are some of the key questions.
Finally, on News Now, Cameroon has signed a 133 million euros loan agreement with the African Development Bank Group to fund a program focused on job creation, skills development, and infrastructure modernization in the Far North region. The deal, known as the Building Capacities and Skills for Employabilities and Entrepreneurship Program, targets Cameroon's conflict-affected Far North with the aim of boosting employment and entrepreneurship while improving regional infrastructure to support long-term development. I am Melissa Enoch, and that's it on News Now this Tuesday. The show returns shortly with Grace at the FMDQ Archives Room for our Markets Rounds. Stick around. Welcome back to Money Moves. Let's now get the updates from today's Markets Round from Grace. Hello there, Grace.
Thank you, Melissa. Now let's track how the markets are wrapping up for the month of September, starting off with the equities as usual. In Nigeria, the NGX All-Share Index closed the month on the positive, up 0.23%. The BRVM in Abidjan gained 0.09%. Nairobi Stock Exchange inched up 0.03% to 176.74. In North Africa, the EGX advanced 0.77%, while in Mauritius, the Semdex slipped 0.02%, and in South Africa, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange added 0.67%. Now let's do a quick round on some of the Pan-African currencies. The Rand edged 0.12% lower to 17.29 Rand per dollar, and the Egyptian pound weakened 0.42% to 47.84. The CFA franc lost 0.47% to 558.87, while the Kenyan shilling eased 0.04% to 129.20. The Moroccan dirham firmed 0.14% to 9.10, and the naira slipped 0.20% to 1,480 naira 45 kobo. Let's switch into the commodities data deck, beginning with energy prices. Crude prices extended losses. Brent crude fell 1.16% to $67.18 a barrel, and US WTI dropped 1.29% to $62.63. Natural gas gained 1.78% to $3.32, and ROBOB gasoline slipped 1.25% to $1.97 as of 14:19 GMT. Finally, two metals prices. Gold firmed 0.43% to $3,871.17 an ounce, while aluminium gained 0.51% to $2,669.25. Copper fell 0.72% to $4.85. Platinum retreated 1.73%, and iron ore was little changed at $105.35 as at 14:49 GMT. And that's our Money Moves markets today. Back to you, Melissa.
Grace, thank you very much for those markets updates. And that's it on this Tuesday's edition of Money Moves. From all of us here at the FMDQ studios, we say thank you very much for watching the show and bye for now.